The polar ice caps have been melting at an alarming rate, raising questions about what will happen when the polar ice is gone. Sea levels are rising due to rising global temperatures, and polar ice is melting faster than ever. The potential effects of the polar ice melting and what can be done to stop it will be covered in this video. We will concentrate on how the melting ice affects animal habitats, global temperatures, and sea levels. Climate change brought on by global warming is causing the polar ice caps to melt. At a pace of about 13% every decade, the Arctic sea ice is disappearing, and during the past 30 years, the oldest and thickest Arctic ice has shrunk by an astounding 95%. By 2040, there may not be any ice in the Arctic during the summer if emissions rise uncontrolled. However, what occurs in the Arctic does not remain there. The repercussions of sea ice loss are felt all across the world. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more stuff before we continue. To sign up for new video alerts, click the bell icon. Have you already implemented it? Let us start. The Arctic Ocean sea ice is a crucial component and a key indicator of climate change. Sea ice usually covers most of the Arctic Ocean during the dark winter. Due to warmer temperatures and more light exposure over the summer, the ice will melt. The area covered by ice in the summer is around half the size covered by ice in the winter, when sea ice will be at its thinnest by mid-September. The ice starts to grow once more when the sun sets further south and wintertime arrives. The Arctic region warms up due to the melting sea ice turning into warmer seawater, which could start a feedback loop, in which the additional warm seawater accelerates the sea ice's melting. An essential measure of Arctic conditions is the age of the sea ice. Sea ice becomes more robust and thicker over time as it builds up, unlike younger ice. The melting of older sea ice shows that the thickness of the Arctic's ice gap is decreasing. Additionally, there's evidence that the sea ice melt season is lengthening, which means that the sea ice is melting earlier in the year and freezing later than it used to. The accumulating effects of global warming directly impact the resilience of Arctic ecosystems on Arctic sea ice. Sea ice is essential for migrating, breeding, and hunting polar bears and walruses. Due to decreasing sea ice thickness and coverage, polar bears and walruses risk declining birth rates and limited access to food sources. Indigenous Arctic people, including the Yupik, Inupiat, and Inuit, are restricted from traditional subsistence hunting due to effects on the Arctic fauna and sea ice loss. Declining Arctic sea ice. Due to the impact of climate change on seas, there has been a recent drop in the area, extent, and volume of the Arctic sea ice. The Arctic Ocean sea ice has been melting more in the summer than it has been freezing again in the winter. The loss of Arctic sea ice results from greenhouse gas forcing, which causes global warming. Early in the 21st century, the Arctic sea ice loss accelerated with a fall rate of negative 4.7% per decade. It has shrunk by more than 50% since the first satellite records. Additionally, it is predicted that summer sea ice will vanish at some point in the 21st century. One of the critical causes of surface-based Arctic amplification is the sea ice loss. The overall area covered by ice is referred to as the sea ice area, while the extent of sea ice is defined as the portion of the ocean with at least 15% sea ice, and the volume is total amount of ice in the Arctic. How long will it take for the ice to melt completely? There are more than 5 million cubic miles of ice on the planet, and according to some scientists, melting it would take longer than 5,000 years. The probability of creating an ice-free planet with an average temperature of 80 degrees Fahrenheit rather than the planet's current 58 is very high if we keep adding carbon to the atmosphere. What causes glaciers to melt? Since the Industrial Revolution, emissions of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide have increased temperatures even more in the poles. As a result, glaciers are rapidly melting, calving off into the sea and retreating on land. More than a third of the existing glaciers on the planet will disappear before the year 2100, even if emissions are drastically reduced in the ensuing decades. 95% of the thickest and oldest sea ice in the Arctic has already disappeared. Scientists predict that ocean and air temperatures will continue to rise quickly if emissions rise unchecked, and the Arctic might lose its summer ice cover as soon as 2040. What impact does sea level rise from melting glaciers have? As sea levels rise due to melting glaciers, more frequent and powerful coastal storms like hurricanes and typhoons are produced. This increases coastal erosion and storm surge. The Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets are the leading causes of rising sea levels worldwide. The Greenland ice sheet is melting 4 times faster than in 2003 and is already responsible for 20% of the current sea level rise. The extent to which ocean levels rise will be significantly influenced by how quickly and much these Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets will melt in the future. By the end of the century, the Greenland ice sheet's current pace of melting is predicted to have doubled if emissions keep rising. Alarmingly, if Greenland's ice disappeared, sea levels would rise by 20 feet. How can changing weather patterns result from glaciers and sea ice melting? The Arctic is warming twice as quickly as the rest of the planet, and its sea ice is thinning by more than 10% per 10 years. As this ice melts, darker ocean patches begin to appear. This eliminates the influence that previously cooled the poles, raising air temperatures and upsetting regular ocean circulation patterns. According to research, the jet stream is changing due to a combination of warming air and ocean temperatures in the Arctic and the tropics, causing the polar vortex to appear more frequently outside the Arctic. The Atlantic Ocean's circulation is being altered by the current glacial melt in Antarctica and Greenland, which has also been reconnected to the collapse of fisheries in the Gulf of Maine and the occurrence of more severe storms and hurricanes globally. What effects do melting glaciers and shrinking sea ice have on people and wildlife? The events that take place here have an impact on the entire world. Ocean currents will continue to alter weather patterns worldwide as sea ice and glaciers melt and the oceans warm. Warmer waters will alter where and when fish reproduce, which will have an impact on industries that depend on healthy fisheries. The cost of recovering from disasters will continue to run into the billions of dollars for coastal cities as storms and flooding become more regular and destructive. Others besides people are impacted. Polar bears spend more time on land in the Arctic due to melting sea ice, displacing other animals like walruses and increasing human-bear conflict. What can we do to prevent the polar ice from melting? By using fewer fossil fuels, which emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and trap heat, we can limit the melting of polar ice. We can employ renewable energy sources instead, including wind and solar energy. Using fewer goods from the Arctic, such as oil and gas, may also contribute to preserving the polar ice. Finally, we can aid groups trying to safeguard the Arctic ice and the species that live there. Climate change is causing the polar ice to melt at an alarming rate, and its impacts on our world are already being seen. Flooding in coastal areas will worsen as sea levels rise, and entire ecosystems can be wiped out. In light of this, if we want to prevent the polar ice from permanently vanishing, we must act immediately to minimize our carbon footprints. If we do not take action to reduce emissions and convert to renewable energy sources, there will be severe repercussions shortly. The video for today is over. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. Remember to click the bell icon to get alerts when new videos are posted. Until then, bye. I will see you in the next video.